Well, the actress Swara Bhasker joins us now. She's been a student of JNU. Thanks very much for being with us, and you've got very strong views on this. Swara, if this is about the finances and the costs incurred by students, particularly those who don't have a lot of resources to finances, there's been an offer by the administration that they'll cut down the increase by 50%. So students who want a single room now will end up paying 300 rupees instead of 600, and those who get a double room will end up paying 150 rupees per month instead of 300. So how would you respond to those who say that this is fairly reasonable, even for those who come from economically challenged backgrounds?
I would say though that those people are actually completely disconnected with the reality of BPL families in India, because the BPL category is one where the family income is or where the income is 2,250 rupees per month, and even with the proposed reduction of fees for BPL category students, they'll still be paying 4,000 rupees per month. So I don't understand that. It's still not tenable, and I don't think, I think that this harping on 200 rupees and 300 rupees kind of misses the point, because the fee hike is not just on the single seater or the double seater room. There is a host of other charges that have been added, including service taxes and utility charges, and the salary of the support staff and the mess staff. I mean, I think the question really is that why should education, quality higher education, be commoditized in this country, in a country like India, which is unequal still, structurally relatively poor still, a country where the constitution guarantees the right to education as one of our fundamental rights. The spirit of the constitution is one that should enable people to have access to education. I think the real question here is that why should quality higher education be unaffordable for families and for children who come from lower income and lower middle income groups?
So
I mean, why should a country like India have a cost recovery model to education?
Right. So Swara,
it's not a profitable business.
To a point that you mentioned, as far as utility charges, electricity and water service charges, mess, sanitation, etc., those who come from economically disadvantaged families or backgrounds will have to pay only 50%. So that is another reduction. I mean, I'm just saying what
I just told you that it doesn't work. It still doesn't work. I just told you that that's not tenable, right? Because if you're earning 2,500 rupees a month, or you can't pay 4,000 rupees on one child's education.
Right, point taken.
It's 43% of JNU students stand to lose the possibility to have an education. If this fee hike comes into play,
right,
they will have to stop studying. And 55% of JNU students are girls.
I take that point you're making, that this is, the cost structure you believe is unviable. Be that as it may, is this for
Absolutely.
you more than just the cost factor? Are there is this an expression of anger or dissent by JNU students who feel that this is an effort by the government to sort of enforce a particular perspective or a particular will, and that it's more than just the money associated with school fee, with university fees? Is that what this is about, or is this only about?
Well, I don't think so.
150 rupees and 300
No,
rupees?
I don't think we should look at it. I don't think that we should, this is a very convenient way to vilify the students of JNU. This is a very legitimate cause. It's something that affects all students who study in JNU. The ABVP is part of these protests. If this was purely coming out of an anti-government sentiment, the ABVP would not be participating in this protest. This is an issue that has unified students because this affects everyone. I mean, I think that we must recognize that we're talking about the future lives of these students. If they are not able to study, what will they do? So I think that actually the fee hike is very, very, and this attack on public education and public funding in higher education is actually hugely problematic. And I'm saying this as a taxpayer. I fall into a tax bracket where we pay the highest tax paying bracket in this country. if I'm paying taxes to the country, I want my taxes to be utilized for making education and health available to all strata of society.
So, Swara, I came across a statement which, in an article, I don't endorse it because I find it insensitive, but I'll ask you this once again because it's a view which has been reflected on Twitter as well, and I quote, "Most students could afford to pay much more and spend much more on autos, chola bhaturas and ice cream floats, and therefore this was referring to a situation a few years back at JNU. But I think the sentiment in this article was that, look, why are you complaining so much about these fees when you'd end up spending so much more having your normal life? How would one respond to that?
No, I think that it's absolutely a ridiculous and highly problematic argument. All right, I cannot comment on the personal habits of students and who's eating ice cream and who's eating or taking an auto. I think it's a very, very frivolous sort of argument. It's probably inaccurate because JNU is a residential campus. A lot of the students, they live on campus, they study on campus. Our whole lives actually revolve around campus when we are in JNU, and in any case that is not the point. The point is that why should, as I said again and again, why should higher education be commoditized? I have some figures from the CAG report of which was released in February 2019. 94,000 crores of the secondary and higher education cess and 7,200 crores of the research and development cess has not been utilized. All right. The JNU administration can spend lakhs of rupees on inviting Sadhguru and Sri Sri Ravi Shankar and having all these really glamorous events on campus, but you want students to bear the brunt of and pay utility charges and so on. I mean, I think the real issue is that why should you run a publicly funded, centrally funded educational institution like it's a private business for profit? That is not the aim of these institutions. The aim of these institutions is to make education, which is a right, available to one and all. And I think that that's a simple question. Everything else about, anti-government, pro-government, it's just a way of vilifying the students and kind of taking the debate away from the very, very central point that the students are raising a very fundamental issue that is uniting them across ideology.
So
and by the way, it's not just JNU students who are protesting. Himachal Pradesh had universities where students were protesting against fee hikes there as well. I mean, these protests have been happening everywhere. I don't think we should just, JNU is in Delhi and it's right now, it's a favorite for everyone to sort of hone in on and criticize. But I think that this issue actually affects everyone. It affects every future child who is born in India.
Okay, but Swara, let me edge in over here with my last question. The protests which we saw today, we saw school buses being trapped for 45 minutes, 50 minutes. We saw traffic in South Delhi being stopped. We saw students jumping over barricades. Yes, there were students who were hurt, well aware of that, have seen the video, played out that video also, I believe. But then the police say that, what option do they have if things get out of hand? 3 metro stations or 4 metro stations didn't function. Does anything justify that? I mean, really, that's my question.
Well, I think that is a question that is better. I think that is a question that is better addressed to the JNU VC, Mr. Mamidala, who has been missing from campus for the last few weeks. Students have been trying to speak to him for the last few weeks. I think that, we shouldn't look at today's protest in isolation. This is the build-up. Students have been protesting every single day in JNU, outside their hostels, outside the administration. No one's been listening to them. Then once they get out on the streets, and then you ghirao them, then you lathi charge them, you break their heads, and then the police, the Delhi police, come on. I think that it's laughable that the Delhi police says that they can't control the students. The students were having a peaceful protest. It's very clear from the videos and the footage that it was a peaceful protest, and I don't understand why the Delhi police felt the need to unleash this kind of completely not justified violence upon the students. And then, like last week, the Delhi police was complaining that they were at the receiving end of violence, some arbitrary mob violence. So I'm sure that they understand the problem with resort to random violence.